The bet sizing for these, I'm not betting a lot on these games. This is my college football strategy this year. And honestly, maybe I should be betting more because more often than not, a winning weekend last weekend, these bets have been doing really well. But still, we're going to keep the sizing down on the bets because there's a lot of them. So that's how I'm going to continue playing this here, betting this college football season. And we'll begin in the SEC, where I think I'm going head-to-head with both Femi and Tyler on this game. Kalen DeBoer. Fraud? I did say it with like an upward inflection at the end. It would imply that I'm not 100% sure about it. It was said a little bit in the form of a question. Maybe Alabama wins. Maybe Alabama wins by 3. I don't think Bama's winning by more than 3. Not with the Nuss bus in town. Jalen Milroe? Yesterday's news. Garrett Nussmeier? Today's. Garrett Nussmeier? Now. And then in the NFL, Garrett Nussmeier. Next. LSU +3 against Alabama. Also, Georgia laying the 2.5 against Ole Miss. It's Carson Beck time. Soy un parador. Ole Miss are losers, baby. And they're not going to be able to cover. Georgia minus the 2.5 at Ole Miss. Other bets. I agree with Sam big time on Texas against Florida. I will lay the 21.5 with the Longhorns against Florida. They just announced Billy Napier's coming back. Good for them. Also feels like their basketball team is in a spot of trouble. Like, people should check out, the allegations against the basketball coach. Not great right now at UF. Give me Texas laying the 21.5 against Florida. Sandwich spot. I got a bunch of tweets yesterday and messages from people about the sandwiches in Pittsburgh because they have Primanti Brothers. I've never had... have you had Primanti Brothers? A sandwich from there?
I've not. I've never been to Pittsburgh, but I've also never had Primanti Brothers.
Has anyone on our show ever had a sandwich from Primanti Brothers, this famous sandwich place in Pittsburgh? If so, let us know. I'm not saying Pittsburgh doesn't have good sandwiches. Also, I'm from New York, and New York's got the best of everything, so piss off. Also, Pitt's not going to cover this weekend in a sandwich spot, because last week, one piece of bread, SMU. Next week, the other piece of bread, Clemson. And the meat, Virginia. Virginia +7.5 against Pitt. Clemson, in a deflated spot, got trucked by Louisville last weekend, and now they got to go. Virginia Tech's Enter Sandman, right? I always get them confused with Sandstorm.
Yes, they're Enter Sandman. Yep.
Yes, Virginia Tech's Enter Sandman. Exit light. Enter night. Take my hand. We're off to Neverland. Something's wrong, shut the light. Heavy thoughts tonight, and they on a Snow White. All of this is to say Virginia Tech +6.5 against Clemson. What a great song. That's actually my karaoke song of choice. Yeah. Ripping your pillow tight. Yeah. Say your prayers, little one. Don't forget, my son, to include everyone. Virginia Tech +6.5 at Clemson. If you love early 90s metal, this is the show for you. Vatech +6.5 against Clemson. Duke was up on Miami last week. How'd that go? Lost by almost 20. I don't think they get off the mat, and they better not turn their back on the Wolfpack, because as Scott Hall and Kevin Nash told us in the late 90s, if you do that, you might end up in a body bag. NC State Wolfpack laying 3. Oh! For life. And you know what it's going to be, Femi, when NC State covers the spread on Saturday against Duke? It's going to be just 2. Sweet! NC State -3 against Duke. Tennessee, look-ahead spot. Next week against Georgia. Mississippi State +24.5. I am on Femi's side with Florida State fading Marcus Freeman as a big... Doesn't feel good to bet Florida State. No. But it never feels good to lay all those points with Marcus Freeman. Very handsome, but not great as a big favorite. Florida State plus the points against Notre Dame. And then the Washington best of the number is gone. I bet 14. I guess I'd still bet whatever. Washington +13.5, +14 on the road at Penn State. Penn State ain't getting up off the mat after what happened last week against Ohio State. Those are my college football bets for this weekend here in the Phenomenal Football Friday Betacular. Femi, what do you got in college football and why?
I'll start with tonight in the Big Ten showdown between Iowa and UCLA. I'll go ahead and fade the Hawkeyes, being that East Coast team having to travel out west for a night game in the Rose Bowl. UCLA has also done a really good job defensively playing these close games. If I can get 6.5 at home, I'm going to bet that one. So Friday night action with me under the lights, UCLA +6.5. I'll go Oppo Taco with Nick in the big game in Baton Rouge. I'll lay the 2.5 with Alabama. Jalen Milroe, I think, is the best quarterback in the game. As much as I do love the Nuss bus, that bus has been derailed for the Heisman Trophy. I think the Nuss bus, a little bit turnover prone. I think we see Milroe step up after coming off the bye in a big way. And DeBoer just wins these close games. So I think DeBoer and Milroe bounce back against LSU. He does. I mean, go look at his record. He's lost like 15 games in like a decade. Like, all he does is win.
Might
no
be a fraud.
Not a fraud. Georgia, I'm with you, Nick. Let's lay the 2.5. I don't get it. Like, people are saying that Ole Miss is live. What? It's Kirby Smart versus Lane Kiffin. Are we serious? It's under a field goal. Kirby Smart's probably telling his team they're a 10-point dog. That dude's a psycho. He's going to have his team ready to roll. They're going to kill Ole Miss in the game. I'm laying Georgia. Like, at biggest bet of the weekend, Georgia laying the 2.5. I'll also go to the big noon kickoff game, Purdue against Ohio State. I'll go under 54. This is typically like the hangover spot, sleepy spot. Ohio State off of a big win, but I have zero faith in Purdue. So I think that maybe it's just Ohio State's defense dominating. Let's say it ends like 38-3, something like that. I'll go under 54, Purdue and Ohio State. And I agree with Sam in the Holy War. I'll take the points with Utah. It's down to 3, no longer 3.5. I think Utah just wins the game outright. Insanely heated rivalry. This is Utah's Super Bowl. I like them +3 against BYU. I'll also tail Nick and Sam with Texas, laying the 21.5. As for the not really top spots, I like Vanderbilt +6.5. We talked about that one on Thursday. I'm going to go with Mississippi State as well in the look-ahead spot against Tennessee, 24.5. Mississippi State covers these big numbers against good teams. Marcus Freeman laying 26. I'll take the 26 with Florida State and the Seminoles. I'll also play Washington +13.5 against Penn State in the letdown spot after the big game loss to Ohio State. And then, of course, like Nick mentioned, Virginia +7.5. I like that as well. Look-ahead spot for the Pitt Panthers, who have some big-time ACC games coming up against Clemson and Louisville. All that sandwiched in between is the Who's. Let's go Who's. Virginia +7.5. Those are my bets in college football.